Hello and welcome to Granny Mo's Bookshelf. Today we'll be reading Nothing to Do by Russell Hoban and pictures by Lillian Hoban. Nothing to Do by Russell Hoban. Pictures by Lillian Hoban. Harper and Row Publishers, New York, Evanston, and London. Copyright 1964. For Raymond and Bobby, good nephews and good fellows both. Nothing to do. I have nothing to do, said Walter Possum to his father. Nothing at all to do. Father did not wake up. It was almost 6 o'clock in the morning, but he was still asleep. Walter shook him a little and spoke louder. I have nothing to do, nothing, he said. Go play with your toys, said Father, without opening his eyes. Walter went back to his room and looked at his toys, but he didn't feel like playing with any of them. He went back to Father again. I have nothing to play with, said Walter. Father's nose twitched a little, and his whiskers quivered, and he opened his eyes and slowly got out of bed. He put on his bathrobe and slippers without saying anything. He opened the front door and went outside. Walter followed him. Father took a rake and a basket out of the tool shed and gave them to Walter. Rake up leaves, said Father, and he went back to bed. Walter raked for a while, but he didn't really feel like it was something to do, and he went back to tell Father about it. Raking leaves is not really something to do, said Walter. Well, said Father, I'm sorry to hear that, but I have something to do. I have to go to the office, so I cannot talk to you about it anymore right now. That evening, Mother and Father went out to dinner at a restaurant by the river. Afterwards, they walked slowly along the edge of the water by the shallows, watching the shadows move over the stones that were silvery in the moonlight. Father bent down and picked up a small round stone. It's a nice kind of stone to hold in your paw, isn't it? He said, and he gave it to Mother. Yes, it is, she said. I've always liked round stones that have been polished smooth by the river. So have I, said Father. He put the stone in his pocket, and they went home by the light of the moon. The next day was Saturday, and at breakfast, Father said to Walter and his little sister Charlotte, I'm going to rake leaves and clean up the basement today, and I'm going to be cleaning house, said Mother, so we want both of you to stay outside and play. I have nothing to do, said Walter, and Charlotte follows me all the time. Walter is mean to me, said Charlotte, who always spoke loudly. I know all about that, said Father, but you're going to have to play outside anyhow. And he went to the tool shed and hoped for the best. Father had been raking leaves for a little while when Walter came over and stood near him. I have nothing to do, said Walter. Father put his paws in his pocket and scuffled the leaves with his feet, and he felt the stone in his pocket and smiled. Then he scratched his head for a moment and thought, Why are you scratching your head, said Walter. I'm thinking, said Father. Listen, Walter, I have something for you. What is it, said Walter. It is a something to do stone, said Father, and he gave Walter the stone that he had found by the river. The stone was smooth and brown and shaped something like an egg. It felt good in Walter's paw as he held it. You keep this stone in your pocket, said Father, and when you have nothing to do, you rub it, and then you look around while you're rubbing it, and then the stone will give you something to do. Where did you get it, said Walter. It looks like a stone from the river. That's where I got it, said Father, but it's not the same as all the other stones. I'll try it, said Walter, and he rubbed the stone. Am I doing it right, he asked Father. That's right, said Father. I have an idea for what to do, said Walter. I'm going to play in the living room with my erector set. That's an inside thing to do, said Father. You need to play outside today. You were too close to the house when you rubbed the stone. Let's try it again, farther away. And they walked farther away from the house, and Walter rubbed the stone again. I want to go to the store and get a rubber ball so I can bounce it, said Walter. May I have a quarter? That's a cost money thing to do, said Father. You were standing too close to the pocket where I keep my money when you rubbed the stone. Try again. Walter rubbed the stone again. I think I know where to find an old ball I lost, he said. I'll go look for it. Father went back to raking leaves, and after a while he heard Walter bouncing the ball on the side of the garage and catching it. Father finished raking the leaves and started cleaning the basement. When Walter got tired of bouncing the ball, he rubbed the stone again and decided to go over his friend Kenneth's house to play with him. Let's play treasure, said Kenneth. I know a good place where the dirt is soft and it's good for digging. So Walter and Kenneth played treasure. First they dug a hole and buried a penny, and then they covered it up, and then they made a map and looked for the place where the treasure was buried. They could not find it. Now it really is a lost treasure, said Kenneth. It's all your fault because you drew the map. No, said Walter. It's all your fault for not making sure I did it right. Anyhow, I don't feel like playing treasure anymore, so I better use my magic stone. What does your magic stone do, said Kenneth. It gives me something to do when I have nothing to do, said Walter. Where did you get it from, said Kenneth. From my father, said Walter. Where'd he get it, said Kenneth. From a magic place, I guess, said Walter. I wish I had one, said Kenneth. Let me try rubbing it. And he grabbed it out of Walter's paw. Now I have got the magic stone, and I won't give it back, so ha, 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 said Kenneth. Well, I'll make you give it back, so ha, ha, ha to you, and said Walter, and he jumped on Kenneth, and they wrestled in the pile of dirt they had dug for treasure. And when Walter was sitting on Kenneth, he said, Give me back my magic stone, or I'll tie your tail in knots. I can't, said Kenneth. It fell out of my paw when we were fighting. So Walter and Kenneth looked for the stone, and they crawled all over the dirt pile looking for it, but they couldn't find it. They wanted to... When they stopped to rest, Charlotte was there. I want to crawl in the dirt pile too, she said loudly. You better not, said Walter. I don't think that both of us should come home dirty. Charlotte threw herself on the ground and began to cry. Mean Walter, said Charlotte. If I had stone, it would give me an idea for what to do with Charlotte, said Walter, so she wouldn't follow me around and cry. Walter put his hands in his pocket and scuffled his feet, and he scratched his head and he smiled. He wanted to rub the stone, but the stone was gone, so he rubbed his head, and then he scratched his head again. Why are you scratching your head, said Kenneth, and why do you have that funny kind of smile on your face? I'm thinking, said Walter. Didn't you ever see your father scratch his head and think? If you lost the magic stone, you wouldn't... Thinking won't do you any good, said Kenneth. I'll have to give it a try anyhow, said Walter. He sat down on the dirt pile and picked up a little stick and poked it in the dirt while he thought. Charlotte was still angry. Mean Walter, she said. I won't be your friend anymore. Walter looked at the stick in his hand. Listen, Charlotte, he said. I have something for you. Charlotte stopped crying. What is it? She said. It's a play right here stick, said Walter. It's magic. What does it do? Said Charlotte. Look, said Walter. You stick it in the dirt and then you look around it and you find all kinds of things to look at so you can play right here. And he planted the stick in the ground and lay down on his stomach and looked at the grass and the dirt. Look, Charlotte, you can see ants. There's one dragging a great big crumb. Where? Said Charlotte. Right here, said Walter. And he showed her. There's lots of other things, too, he said, if you look real close and play right here. Let me look, said Charlotte. All right, said Walter, and he moved away so Charlotte could watch the ant. He scratched his head and scruffled his feet and thought again. What? Are you thinking again? Said Kenneth. Yes, said Walter. And I thought, let's climb the apple tree and look for empty nests of the robins left. And there's a grasshopper too, said Charlotte. See, said Walter. I told you it works. And he went off to climb the apple tree with Kenneth. Charlotte played right there and did not follow them and cry. At dinner time, Mother said, Walter must have found something to do today. He wasn't hanging around the house at all. Well, said Father, there's a reason for that. Show Mother your something to do stone, Walter. What? Said Walter. Your something to do stone, said Father. You know. Oh, said Walter, I lost it. Then how come you didn't hang around and tell me you had nothing to do? Said Father. Walter gave me a magic stick, said Charlotte. Walter is my friend. Wait a minute, Charlotte, said Father. I want to hear what Walter was going to say. How come you didn't tell me you had nothing to do, Walter? I had something to do, said Walter. I had things to do all afternoon. I thought of them by myself. I played right here with my magic stick, said Charlotte. Walter's a nice big brother. You thought of them yourself, said Father to Walter. That's right, said Walter. I scratched my head and thought just the way you do, and it works. I'm very happy to hear that, said Father, and he gave Walter a big hug and a kiss. So am I, said Mother, and she hugged and kissed Charlotte and gave both children an extra piece of apple pie. The end. That is Nothing to Do by Russell and Lillian Hoban. Copyright 1964. Printed in the United States of America. Hope you enjoyed that story. Be sure to check back for new books. I will talk to you later. Like, share, subscribe, do the thing. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.